Senator, earlier this year, we heard that you said specifically that Putin views Trump as a, quote, child who can be easily controlled and manipulated. Do you still believe that?
I do. I'm concerned about how easily he could be manipulated by Putin. If Putin praises him, if Putin offers some kind of a joint oil or mineral exploration in the Arctic, and Trump thinks that, hey, this is his ticket to some kind of a deal and some kind of a peace prize.
Donald Trump is preparing to meet Vladimir Putin again, and Senator Adam Schiff is sounding the alarm. Schiff isn't mincing words. He believes Putin sees Trump as a child, someone he can manipulate with flattery and empty promises. And if history is any guide, he's right. Remember Helsinki? Trump literally took the Russian dictator's side over our own intelligence agencies. That wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. And Schiff says we may be headed right back there again.
Senator Schiff is joining me, ready to go, Senator for Democratic Senator from California. Senator, earlier this year, we heard that you said specifically that Putin views Trump as a, quote, child who can be easily controlled and manipulated. Do you still believe that?
I do. I'm really deeply concerned about what comes out of this. We saw in Trump 1 that disastrous summit in Helsinki where the president took the Russian dictator's side over our own intelligence agencies. I would hate to see a repeat of that. On the way to the summit, he's saying that he's not there to negotiate on behalf of Ukraine. He's praising the Belarusian dictator. And I'm concerned about how easily he could be manipulated by Putin. If Putin praises him, if Putin offers some kind of a joint oil or mineral exploration in the Arctic, and Trump thinks that, hey, this is his ticket to some kind of a deal and some kind of a peace prize, he never really has seemed to have support for Ukraine in his bones. It has to be forced on him. So I'm deeply worried about what could come out of this. And you know, ideally it would be a ceasefire. But I suspect that whatever Putin suggests, you really can't count on. The proof will be whether it really manifests after they leave Alaska.
Do you believe that President Trump should get credit for, at the very least, trying to have peace happen here? The argument being that the Biden approach did not work, and that ultimately, even though there was a period when arming Ukraine seemed to really push the Russians back, that Russia reorganized, Putin reorganized his economy and his country, and then began to score some very significant victories on the battlefield, and that this is at least an attempt to bring an end to the bloodshed.
Look, I'm all for any attempt to bring an end to the bloodshed, but what would have been, I think, a far more successful strategy for the president was to have Ukraine's back, to be leaning into providing material and military support to Ukraine, to give Ukraine the resources it needed to take out the trains carrying fuel going to the front, which have continued to feed the war. But this is not what the president done. The president said essentially Ukraine won't be part of NATO, so he's dealt away a terrible concession even before there's any kind of negotiations. The vice president today in saying that, you know, we're done with providing military support for Ukraine. How is that facilitating a successful negotiation? That's essentially giving up both the military support, NATO membership. Indeed, the president talked about land swaps, giving up potentially territory of Ukraine, even before you sit down at the table. So I agree. The Biden approach didn't succeed, and I think because it was too slow to provide enough material support to Ukraine to give Ukraine that military advantage it needed. But what the president has done since taking office has been to undercut that. We have a bipartisan bill, as you know, strongly bipartisan, to sanction Russia. The president hasn't allowed that legislation to move forward. And the president's own threat of imposing sanctions, he withdrew on, at least until now. So I don't think this is the successful negotiating posture Ukraine deserves.
Obviously, any peace still has to be negotiated between the leaders of Russia and the leaders of Ukraine. Do you agree with the general note, though, that whatever ceasefire or peace deal comes forward, whenever it happens, it is almost guaranteed that there will have to be some concessions of land by Ukraine, whether the U.S. and the Western world recognize it or not, and obviously to be agreed upon by Ukraine. But do you agree that that's almost certainly a requirement for there to be an end to this horrific war?
Well, Jake, I wouldn't go into this negotiation conceding that at all. I wouldn't concede territory. I wouldn't concede NATO membership. I wouldn't concede anything. Russia invaded Ukraine. It has murdered tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And our position going into any negotiation should be, we stand firmly with Ukraine. We stand with our European allies. And much as I wouldn't have the president make any territorial concessions before there is an agreement resolved between Russia and Ukraine, I wouldn't make those concessions either. So that's not the posture I want to take, or that I think the president ought to take.
Schiff paints a grim picture. Trump arrives at this so-called peace summit not to defend Ukraine, not to strengthen NATO, but ready to hand Putin concessions on a silver platter. He's already praised Belarus's dictator. He's already suggested Ukraine won't be part of NATO. And he's floated the idea of land swaps, in other words, letting Russia carve up Ukraine's territory before negotiations even begin. Think about that. Before even sitting down at the table, Trump is undermining Ukraine, undermining our allies, and boosting Putin's hand. Schiff warns that Putin doesn't even have to work hard, just dangle the idea of a Nobel Peace Prize or a flashy oil deal in the Arctic, and Trump will chase it like a trophy. That's not diplomacy. That's surrender. Now compare that to what Schiff argues should have been done: real support for Ukraine. The weapons, the supplies, the resources to cut off Russia's fuel lines and cripple its war machine. Instead, Trump has weakened bipartisan sanctions, pulled back on military aid, and sent the message that America's backing of Ukraine is conditional, that it can be bargained away. And here's the kicker. Schiff refuses to accept the cynical idea that peace automatically means Ukraine must give up land. Why? Because Russia started this war. Russia invaded. Russia has slaughtered thousands of people. To concede territory before even negotiating is to reward Putin's aggression. Schiff is clear. America should stand with Ukraine and Europe, firmly, without preemptive concessions. This isn't just about foreign policy. It's about whether America stands with democracy or folds to dictators. Schiff's warning is simple. If Trump gets manipulated by Putin again, Ukraine could be the first casualty, but democracy itself won't be far behind. This is Blue Wave Report, where we cut through the noise and bring you the facts that matter. If you want to stay ahead of the spin, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next.